Alrighty, we're getting things going. The stream is streaming. I just gotta wait for some restream stuff to show that a stream is coming through. There we go. Come on. There is Instagram. Okay. I think we're live in all the places. If you are joining, thanks for being here. If you want to do me a favor, send a message in the chat. Let me know it's working. Happy to hear from you. I don't know why LinkedIn's not going. Did I miss LinkedIn? Nope. It says it's going. There we are. Awesome. I see people joining the chat, so love to hear from you. If you are new to my live streams, definitely please take advantage of the chat because I will be otherwise just blabbing. And I think if you're here, you might find it more beneficial to be asking questions and stuff. So I'm happy to go through that. Thanks for testing out the chat there. Looks like X is working fine. Infected FPS, good to see you on Twitch. Thanks for reporting in. Topic for today is going to be learning in public. I think I've seen this come up a bunch. I've seen people talk about it. I've talked about it. I figured I would try to write a newsletter article about it and then kind of do a live stream. And then that way, if people have more specific questions about how to take advantage of this, then we can do that. Express package on YouTube. I'm here for the company. Great. Well, you're in good company, I like to think. So thanks for being here. If you are interested in kind of following along, I'm just going to put it in the chat here. Depending on what platform you are on, it will either go to you or not in your chat. It looks like it goes to YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. I forgot I streamed to Facebook. Thanks for being on Facebook. But if you don't get that link coming through, it's just at weekly.devleader.ca. That's the newsletter I publish. No, you don't have to go subscribe to a newsletter. If you're like, Nick, I think those are dumb. I don't want more email. That's totally cool. Don't subscribe to it. Your loss. But seriously, no, don't bother if you don't want to. That's cool. But if you're ever interested in knowing what the topics are going to be for the live stream, it's most likely the newsletter article. That goes out on Saturdays. So you can check that out if you just want to follow along or have, I don't know, some idea of what I'm going to be talking about. But like I said, go to the chat and ask your questions if you want me to do that instead. I will try to prioritize that as much as possible. So with that said, I think we can dive into it. It's Monday. It's been a good start to the year, but I think it's always kind of hard going from holidays. And then in particular, we had like the 2-day break and then we had New Year's right in the middle of the week. And then 2 days at work, then New Year's, then 2 days. So you had like 2 mini weeks. It's going to make the next week feel like it takes an infinite amount of time. So now that we're past that and things are back to normal, I'm kind of, I think I'm ready to go. And traffic wasn't too bad today. So I know there's going to be some folks joining from my other YouTube channel. It's called Code Commute. So I basically do vlog entries where I talk about software engineering, just like we're doing right now. But it's not a live stream because that would be pretty reckless if I was trying to live stream and answer chat messages while driving. So I don't do that, but I just record myself talking about software engineering topics. So traffic today, not so bad, thankfully. But learning in public, what's it all about? Why should we do it? Why should you not? How do you do it right? How do you do it wrong? And what can you expect from it? So as I go through this, it would be cool to hear in the chat. Obviously, no pressure if you're not interested in that. But if you don't mind, would love to hear from you in the chat. If you have tried learning in public, maybe you gave it a shot, didn't work so well. Maybe you're doing it right now and it's awesome and you love it. Or maybe you're in the same boat as a lot of people where you're like, I hear about it and I just don't know. But if you don't mind sharing, it would be awesome to hear. Natalie Wheeler, I will put a link to Code Commute. It's I'm going to shout it out later, but actually this doesn't go to LinkedIn. So one sec, I will just put it in the LinkedIn comments. So Code Commute is the other YouTube channel. But yeah, I think it's kind of fun. It kind of started as let me just take a moment for Code Commute. But I started it because not that I'm forced to go to the office, but I go to the office twice a week now. And it's actually great because my previous team, not that there's anything wrong with this, but they were essentially fully remote. And the team that I have now at Microsoft, people go into the office a lot, which is great. And like as an engineering manager, I love having FaceTime with people. I love getting to actually have conversations. So it's pretty cool. But the problem is I hate traffic. And based on where I live, I either have like a 20-minute drive when everything's clear. That's not so bad. Get on the highway, cruise. But that basically never happens. And usually it's like 40 minutes to an hour, depending on if people decide they can't drive in rain that day. And by the way, in Seattle, it rains every single day. So it's usually pretty crappy. And I said, if I'm going to be driving to and from work, I want to make something out of it. So I decided I would just start recording software engineering vlog entries. And I've kind of joked about this, but like I'm frustrated and also thankful that this new channel has basically doubled the performance of my main channel with, you know, 1/9 of the subscribers. So really cool. It's a fun experience and people seem to be resonating with it. So let's go to the chat quick. I see this is my first time learning in public. It's also helping me improve my English skills. Nice. I think it's a good idea. Yes. I have a bunch of employees either on my team now or my previous team. And kind of a new thing for me was like at Microsoft. So the past 5 years, I never had people that reported to me that I guess I would, if they weren't native English speakers, I wouldn't really have ever known. And so it's really interesting having people report to me from different countries. And part of my focus as an engineering manager is like I want to make sure that people like trust that they can talk to me about stuff so that I can help them on what they need help with. And it's been interesting to learn that a bunch of people actually, and I never would have guessed it, right? But a bunch of people are like self-conscious about their English. They're always, I shouldn't say always, that's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but they're asking for feedback and stuff like, hey, like, you know, if there's any time I'm messing up or something, can you let me know? Because I want to improve. Like, I would not have ever guessed that it's such a focus and sort of occupies so much time that they're like sort of in their brain that they're like, I just want to be better at this. Because for me as the observer, I'm like, hey, this person's doing awesome. And if I think about myself, I'm like, I am a native English speaker, and sometimes I feel like I barely can speak English properly. So I can't imagine, you know, what that's like to have to, your day job is speaking a language that's not your native tongue. I had to learn French as a Canadian when I was in elementary school and like the first year of high school. And there is absolutely no chance I could ever speak French right now in any meaningful way or hear it and understand it, aside from saying like bonjour. But like that's it. I can't speak French at all. So I think it's amazing that people can do this. And so Andrea, I think awesome job for kind of taking advantage of learning in public as a way to practice English. I think that's amazing. Infected FPS, I don't have the consistency to do the whole learning in public thing. Yep. So we'll talk about that because one of the points is that sometimes for people that actually works the other way, where to infected FPS's point here, infected FPS's, that's a really, how do you even say that? I'm just going to call you infected now. I think it's maybe easier. To infected's point, see, way easier. I think that for some people, it can almost be like a motivator, and I'll talk about that. And that way you can kind of use it for consistency. So that's cool. Natalie says, thanks. I tried coding through tutorials live, but it felt weird talking to myself. Yeah, totally get it. That's cool. Tayman 1992 says, I only code naked, so I can't do it in public. Well, you could, but maybe only once, and then that'll be the last time you ever get to do it. So I'm not recommending you do it, but technically it's possible. Natalie says, Austin, I concur. And Tappan, hi, Nick. Hello to you as well. Thanks for being here on LinkedIn. So we're going to talk about learning in public. I'm going to go through the newsletter content. Like I said, if you want to follow along, please do. But the first thing, kind of to Infected's point, we're going to kind of talk about motivation and accountability. So the disclaimer that I put in, yeah, sorry, Natalie, I know that was maybe a little weird, but the please please don't code naked in public. But I'm not gonna. It's not for me to say. I don't recommend it. But motivation and accountability. The disclaimer I put in the newsletter is that like I acknowledge that this is not going to apply to everyone. Um, I think that for some individuals, like especially beginning of the year, right? A lot of people have New Year's resolutions, but I think if you're someone who's like an aspiring software developer or even someone that's like trying to it's so weird. I know, okay, we're moving on from it. We're moving on from it. Um, I think for someone that is trying to pick up on like a new technology, new language, I think a lot of us have probably found ourselves in this situation before where it's like, okay, like I'm going to go learn this thing and I'm going to start Monday. And then Monday comes and you're like, like, okay, like by Wednesday, like, it's going to happen. And basically we keep procrastinating, putting it off, and then it just never happens. Right. And then some time goes by and we're kind of like, man, like wish I would have, or why aren't I? And we feel kind of guilty and stuff. And it's not just applicable for like programming. It could be any skill, right? It's just easy to put things off. We get busy and we move on. So one of the things I like about this is that I think for some people that try it out and they start trying to share what they're learning in public, what they find is that they actually might have either a little bit of motivation or accountability that's associated with it. And sometimes it just takes, and again, it's going to be different for everyone, but it might take a little bit of like, I don't know, like an external influence to be able to say like, hey, look, like someone read this or someone liked my post. Like, oh, neat. Like someone did see that. Okay. And then like you may want to go do it again. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily like the perfect reason to go do it. My point here is that for some people, this might be a way to kind of help push them along. So I wanted to give a couple of other just examples in general around this kind of concept. And one that comes to mind from personal experience is like totally unrelated to software engineering. I basically quit my hobby bodybuilding career last year. When I was prepping for two competitions, I was like 6 weeks out and I was like, I'm just not doing it anymore. But I've been kind of doing like bodybuilding stuff for almost like 20 years. And during that time, not the whole time, but like, especially in the last like 5, 6 years of doing bodybuilding, even in the off season of bodybuilding, I would hire a coach. And it's not because I have no idea what I'm doing, or it's not because the coach was so amazing that it was a guru knowledge that I could never get anywhere else. But and I'm not insulting my coaches either. I think they were great. But I think one of the most important parts for me was that it actually meant that I had to be accountable. So there are going to be times, especially for something like bodybuilding, where it's like you don't just do it like periodically. It's kind of like a lifestyle kind of thing. It's easy to kind of get into a rut and to be like, man, like I just don't want to do it anymore. It's getting hard. For someone like me, I'm very short, and to try and put on more muscle mass, like I end up having to get pretty heavy, and that can be uncomfortable, especially because you're like, I know I want to get onto a stage and be shredded someday, but like part of that process over say a couple of years is like you get a little bit fatter than you want to get because you're trying to put on weight. Anyway, this kind of stuff can be pretty taxing, not only on your body, but kind of like on the mental side. So it can be easy to be like, well, why am I doing this? Let's just not. It's it's hard, right? But to have someone that you can be accountable to, I think can be a huge benefit. I found that for myself. And I think that I see a parallel with being able to kind of share things in public. Again, maybe not for everyone, but I see some overlap there. Another one I wanted to share, not from my own experience, but from something I observed. It's actually it's kind of like a fitness or like lifestyle kind of approach as well. Coding mountain Man. You don't want to see me on stage. Ha. Yeah. Well, the one part I didn't like about bodybuilding is like and for people that don't know about this kind of stuff, just a mini tangent lesson. Bodybuilders go onto a stage with really bright lights. You need to get a really dark spray tan. It doesn't necessarily have to be spray, but basically it's a spray tan. And so that's super awkward because it's outrageously dark. It's like 2 or 3 coats of spray tan. And so, like, I don't spray tan at all, but you do that on a stage. And you do that, by the way, just so when the light is on you, that it doesn't make it look like you're completely washed out. You want to have level skin, and that way people can see the detail. But the other thing that's super awkward about bodybuilding is you're basically in a man thong. And for me, that's not really something I enjoy. I also don't like being on a stage. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm actually very introverted. And you might be like, that's kind of weird because I see you doing live streams and you do a vlog and you have your YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm super introverted. So it's actually taken me a lot of practice just talking to a camera to be more comfortable. But yeah, those are some weird things about bodybuilding that I don't like. But I do love the schedule, the structure. Like I like having a lot of structure because it takes certain elements out of my life that I don't have to worry about. Like I don't want to have to think about what I eat every day. I'm totally happy to make the same thing and eat it all the time. Like take that out, I don't have to worry about it. I just like the routine and I like the style of working out, but I don't do that anymore. Um, bronze and contour. That's right. I should have. I wish I would have taken advantage of like learning some different makeup techniques, and maybe I could have just maybe relaxed a little bit more on my training and just like maybe use some contouring to make everything look better. But OG Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman back in the day, yeah, like so I love that kind of stuff. I think it's really cool, but I don't do that anymore. I joined CrossFit. My wife does CrossFit, so I go there in the mornings with her, which is actually great. It's hard. Pardon my language, but it kicks my ass every single time. Like I said, I've been in a gym for over 20 years. People don't know this, but I've been in a gym just as long as I've been programming. I don't know. Maybe I don't look like it. I don't know. Should have trained harder, but yeah, CrossFit definitely kicks my butt every day I go. And you'll probably you'll know if you watch Code Commute because sometimes I'll do it on the way back from CrossFit and I get into the car and I'm like I can't breathe, I'm dying. But it's good. It's good. So the other thing bit of a tangent there, but the other thing I wanted to talk about from like a motivation and accountability thing, I've actually watched a friend of mine who was, I'm not sure if people have heard of this thing called 75 Hard. I don't know all the details about it, but basically for 75 days, you implement a lot of like pretty like regimented structure and restrictions into some of your lifestyle. Like I think you have to do like one workout a day outside for like at least 30 minutes or something. You have to drink so much water. You have to read a book, like so much of a book every day. I don't know no alcohol. There's a lot of like, just a lot of stuff in there. And to me, it's kind of interesting because there's some, I don't know, I think there's data out there that shows like building up micro habits is actually like an effective strategy, but this is very much the opposite. It's like, screw the micro habits, everything all at once, go full and do it for 75 days. And what I thought was interesting was that I have a friend who was doing it and decided that, I don't know if he did it from the very beginning, but he decided he was going to sort of document his journey on social media and started making like funny like reels or TikToks about it. But I actually think what happened is that he started to realize that like again, like he had this motivation or accountability that was fueled by doing that. And again, it's not for everyone. I'm not saying you have to go be a full-on content creator or something, but I just wanted to give you an example of someone that tried like posting and then felt that for them it was like that actually felt good to do. I want to be able to do that again. So anyway, just an example. So I think some external accountability can help. And if that does not work for you, I think that in general, kind of like infected FPS was saying at the beginning here, he does not, or he has a challenge learning in public because of consistency, right? And I think if it's not driven by this, like I think finding some other way to be motivated or held accountable, whatever works for you, is like probably something you'll want to find. And it doesn't have to be necessarily driven by this, but I think it's a great example of how that can work for some people. Okay, next point is actually going to go back to what Andrea was saying, where Andrea was saying that for her, it's the ability to practice her English. And So not only like I didn't write this in the newsletter because I actually wasn't thinking about this, but I think that's an amazing opportunity and sort of use case for this. But I wrote down practice communication in the newsletter because I was thinking just in general about, even as a native English speaker, just like this ability to literally practice communication. So, and a lot of the content I put out for software engineers, I try to focus on the fact that like soft skills I feel like are very underrated, and a lot of that perspective is driven by the fact that when I talk to software engineers, like especially aspiring software engineers, there's so much focus on like, tell me what language to learn, tell me what tech stack. Like, it's only focus on technical things. And the thing that I find kind of interesting is like, your entire career is going to be focused on learning different technical things. I get it, right? I get the desire to want to be set on the right track to not waste your time so you can learn the best language, C sharp, by the way. Just kidding, but it's pretty good. And learn the best tech stack, ASP.NET Core, by the way. But people don't want to waste their time doing stuff, so they're looking for answers, looking for shortcuts, but it always seems to be technical, which is fine. But I think that what happens is that for some individuals, they don't realize that like if you're going into software engineering hoping that you're not going to be interacting with people, like I said for myself, I'm very introverted, but if you're going into a software engineering field, you're going to be working with people. Someone might say, well, that's what you think. I'm going to be a solo dev and I don't have to work with a team and I don't have to work with people. And then I would say, well, guess what? You're either, say you're working for yourself, you're going to have customers. Do you not have to find ways to communicate effectively with customers? Or you're a contract worker, so someone's hired you to do work on their behalf and you're building software for them. They're your stakeholder. How do you communicate with them, right? So communication and soft skills are going to come up all the time in software engineering. And I would say that, if you're kind of doing like a traditional approach working in a team of software engineers, you will be required to communicate and have soft skills like more effectively as you grow in level. Yeah. Natalie says, if you want to secure the bag, you will. There you go, right? Tayman, C# is the best. You're not wrong, especially with Visual Studio. Some people hate Visual Studio. There's like tons of people that are like, I can't stand it. I will never use it. I've been using Visual Studio for forever. Might be like a minor exaggeration, but like a pretty long time. And like, I don't know, like if I, on my computer right now, on where I'm streaming from, I have 2 instances of Visual Studio opened up right now. My other computer's locked right now. I bet you if I switch to that, I have 3 instances of Visual Studio open right now. In fact, it says, because they're stuck in 2005 and haven't tried it since then. Yeah, but I think, there's a kind of a, someone asked this, and I did a video on Code Commute this morning for it, but they were saying, hey, like, I'm interested in, your opinion on like .NET versus like, why do people, like, basically, why is C# and .NET not as popular as Java? And they use Node as an example, but maybe they meant like Java and JavaScript. And it's like, man, there's a lot of reasons for that. But there's a lot of people that just love to hate on Microsoft. And like, I know, like I work at Microsoft now, but even before I worked at Microsoft, I'm like, I just don't understand why people like have this like hatred. Like they want nothing to do with Microsoft. And like, it's great. People like post on LinkedIn about how much they hate Microsoft. And I'm like, it's so weird. Like Microsoft literally owns the platform you're using right now. Or like Microsoft owns GitHub. So like maybe don't ever push anything to GitHub because you hate Microsoft so much. I don't know. It's weird. Don't play Halo. Where'd my computer go? Is my stream back? I think I lost power at my house. Are you guys still in the chat? Please say you're in the chat. I'm waiting for one person to say they're in the... Nice, I'm back. Yes, okay, that was super weird. Everything went black in my room and I was like, oh, Um, yeah, that fourth instance of Visual Studio, that's right. It sucked all the power off the grid. Cool. Yeah, so in affected FPSs, there's a stigma from the early days that people still haven't really let go of, sadly, yet. Thanks everyone for jumping in the chat because I got real scared there. Thank you. And I'm just going to go scroll back up and read Andrea's comment. In my case, I'm unemployed, and for this reason, sometimes I've not motivation for programming without having a good goal or reward. Yeah. I mean, in job, you have motivation to keep your job, do a good job. Yep. How I can find motivation to improve my skills at home. Yeah. So let's, I want to see, like, I think that's kind of coming up. Actually, you know what? Like, I didn't even, I, I feel like an idiot right now. So thank you so much, Andrea, for that question, because I literally didn't even write about that. I think I talked about every other aspect about learning in public aside from the fact that like you can just actually build up skills. So let me kind of tangent to talk about that, right? How can I find the motivation to improve my skills at home? Um, I think this is different for a lot of people, right? So I for myself, right, I actually do. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm just a nerd, I guess. But like I actually I really like building software. So I enjoy doing it. So there's times like I like playing video games, like to kick back and relax. But sometimes if I'm playing video games, I feel kind of weird, like I'm not building stuff. And I just like really like to build things. And they don't have to, like, I'm not saying it has to be a business or it has to be, the next like Facebook or something, but there's something about like putting things together. Is my stream going again? What is going on? I think I'm back. Sorry, folks. I don't know what's happening with the stream. I'm just going to keep talking. Um, it's not even like no one else is using the internet here. So anyway, so I actually just enjoy building things. So for me, like I'm a little bit fortunate that like that motivation just comes kind of from within. But I think for others, right? So if you're saying like, how can you find the motivation to improve your skills at home? I think this is difficult for a lot of people because um, laggy. Yeah, so weird. I have like gigabit internet too, so like I don't know what's up with that. So hopefully the video stabilizes and comes back. I'm gonna blame Restream. It's their fault. But yeah, you might find like I think probably the average person is like carving out time to go learn like extra stuff outside of work is like chaos, right? It's like, so for example, I'm married, we don't have kids, but if we had kids, I could imagine that was just like one enormous level of like commitment to something else, the kids, right? But like just so much time spent on that. And that's not that that's a bad thing at all. But if you're someone that has kids, you can't just be like, "Oh, I guess I'm not paying attention to the kids." Like that is literally something in your life that you need to dedicate time to. And when I think about these things, the way that I kind of like the way that my brain tries to navigate this is like, okay, obviously we all have 24 hours in the day. This isn't news to anyone. And the sort of thought exercise that I think is important for people to do is genuinely look at your time allotment, right? So, for example, like probably sleep 8 hours a day. Personally, I like to sleep 6 to 7. If I sleep less than 6, I'm a zombie. If I sleep like 8 hours, I feel like I'm also a zombie. So like 6 to 7 is pretty good. Um, and then the other parts on top of that, like I work my 9 to 5 job, right? And so I accommodate a little bit of extra time on either side of that. And then I have so much other time left in the day. Now, that means like that's my free time. Like I said, I don't have kids, so I don't have a time commitment for that. My wife, even on like an evening like today, right? So I came home from work, I saw my wife briefly. She came in at the same time, but she knows I'm streaming tonight. So I have that time carved out. But it's not like every day I'm streaming and then never seeing my wife. So I have time carved out for that. But my point here is that if we're looking at the things that we're doing in our lives, there's going to be a prioritization problem at some point. And I think for some people, and I'm not necessarily saying this for Andrea, by the way, so please don't, I'm not like singling you out for this. I just wanted to chat through this. Is like, I think for some people, they they go, I don't have time for that. That ends up being an excuse. But really, if they were to look at the things that they were prioritizing in their life, maybe they're doing things that like they're not sort of contributing to the next step they want to get to. And these types of things can change over time too, right? So for example, I'm just gonna make up something, right? Um, I don't play like intramural sports or anything like that, so this is gonna be a really bad example. But let's say someone was like, I don't have time to dedicate. Um, I gotta, man, what are these people doing in my chat? Get out of here. Bye. Trying to advertise on my stream. How dare you? Uh, I can barely advertise on my stream because I don't know how to do it. But so if we're taking an example for someone who like, hey, I play intramural sports, so like on, Mondays and Wednesdays, what is going on with this video? It's turning off my monitor. So I don't even know if my monitor is coming back. You know what it probably is, my video card. So now I got to see. I got to move the chat over to this other window. We're going to figure it out because I have to look over here now. Sorry, guys. My entire monitor disappeared, so I have to move everything over to one window. We're going to keep doing it live, though. So my point with my stupid story was like, I think sometimes we have to look at the priorities that we have and sort of where we want to go next. And for some people, that might be like, hey, I want to skill up for my job, or I want to switch roles, or I want to work towards my promotion, or whatever it happens to be. And that might mean a little bit of a shift in how you're dedicating your time. That doesn't mean that like for the rest of your life, you have to carve out 2 hours a night to go program stuff after hours. That's not what that means, right? But there might be a period of time where you're saying, hey, look, like maybe I'm giving up this other part of my life because I only have so much time. I'm not gonna watch Netflix on Thursday nights. I'm gonna dedicate that to coding, and I'm not gonna go to Ultimate Frisbee on Tuesday for the next couple months because I'm gonna go try to skill up and learn some extra things outside of work. So, I think time commitments are one thing, and so I wanted to address that based on Andrea's comment. But the other thing that I wanted to say is like in terms of motivation, I don't know if I have a good answer for this, but often what I've seen is that sometimes people they end up taking action almost like when they're frustrated. I should check if my stream's actually still going. One sec. Because I don't see anyone talking in the chat. Let me pull this up. I think it's still going. I'm going to keep talking like it's going. So the I see people end up taking. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I see people take action when they start to get frustrated, right? And it's unfortunate because sometimes it's like things haven't been going well, and it's almost like they reached a tipping point, and they're like, "There's no other option now. Now I'm going to go spend time to go learn things." Or I've seen this kind of thing happen where like it's one of the most common things is like with people with their weight. And I've seen this happen a whole bunch in my life, especially because I was saying like being around the gym and stuff. I'd have people, friends and stuff asking like, hey, like, can you help me with this? And it's like, sure, like, no problem. I'll put together something for free. Like I'm not charging anyone for this kind of stuff. Like put together a simple workout plan for you and like, help you structure how to eat. All excited, awesome. And then they don't do it. And at some point for some of these people, they reach a point where they're so unhappy about things that they're like, there's no other option. I have to do this. And I think sometimes again, unfortunately for some people, it takes reaching a point where they're like, this is the only way, so I will take action. So I hope for most people, you don't have to wait that long. So I would try to maybe approach it like I spoke recently about doing like more frequent reflection. I think I posted this on LinkedIn, like taking the opportunity to periodically reflect on your accomplishments, where you're headed and that kind of thing, because I think it's so easy for us to kind of just put our heads down and like almost go onto autopilot. Like I got to go to my job. I got to take care of my responsibilities, wake up, repeat, keep doing it. And then reach a point where you're like, man, like a bunch of time's gone by, but like, I don't know how I feel about like where I'm at. And so instead of getting to like an autopilot mode, or instead of getting to a point where you're so frustrated with things, if you're able to do a periodic reflection, you might be able to sort of um, acknowledge that like there's some things that you do want to focus on. So I realize I'm probably doing a pretty poor job at explaining this, Andrea, or to give you some ideas around it, but um, I think that you have to kind of find like why you want to be dedicating time to, like building stuff like that, or like learning more about programming and software development outside of work. So for example, if you want to, you have feedback in your job, you need to skill up on something, or you feel like, hey, I'm not advancing in my career and I feel like my technical skills are holding me back, or I'd like to switch into this type of role. Maybe you do mobile development right now and you're like, I really would like to get into web development. But like, if you're not getting those opportunities at work, one, I mean, maybe there's an opportunity where you can ask, pardon me, you could talk to your manager about that. Um, Quick tangent. I work in the substrate part of Microsoft, which is the infrastructure for Office 365. And I've had team members say to me like, hey, I would love to learn like some front end development. And I'm like, we're a back end platform team. Like there is no front end. But then I kind of look around and I find partner teams that have some capacity for that. And then I, try to help them and make sure that they can, if it aligns, that they get some time to be able to do that. And Andrew, okay, Andrew, awesome. Thanks. I see your comment here. So if I may, I want to tell you what I did. Maybe it's not the best idea, but it's actually working. So this is great. I asked a friend to be my tutor. So he is sending me challenges every month. So I have to solve them, and it's working. So I think sometimes I need some pressure to find motivation. It can be more organic or more an internal feeling, but it's working by pressure. But I asked you because maybe I can find more organic way. So yeah, thank you. No, I think that's really cool. Your example about this external pressure, right? Pressure is, I think sometimes people hear the word pressure and they're like, well, pressure sounds negative. But I don't think pressure is necessarily negative, but sometimes there's a negative connotation with it. I don't have the other word it's escaping me right now, but anyway, I think your example of this is similar to what I was saying of like, this external accountability for the posting online thing, right? Sometimes people are like, that makes me, there's an external thing that's making me kind of like want to do this because I feel like it's kind of pushing or driving me. So I think a similar example, but, yeah, I think the direction I was kind of heading with my explanation was essentially like, maybe the internal or organic drive is more around like you identifying the areas you want to grow in and being honest with yourself, right? So maybe I don't know, like I think sometimes, like I said, people get into autopilot and they don't think about it. But if you were like, I would like to be working in this type of field. Maybe it's an industry, maybe it's a type of software development. But if you're not getting those opportunities, like, do you? I don't mean to sound facetious when I say this, but like, do you just sit there and not ever pursue that, or do you try and apply to those types of jobs and maybe feel frustrated when you're not getting the opportunities? Or do you try creating those opportunities for yourself, right? Maybe it doesn't mean you get hired immediately doing it, but if you were like, I wanted to learn web development so I could do it because I think I'll enjoy it, what's like, again, not to sound facetious, but like what's stopping you from starting? We already said C# and ASP.NET Core is the best, right? Just kidding. But yeah, so thanks, Andrew. I think it's a great question, and I hope that kind of helps. Just some different perspective. I'm scrolling back up in the chat because with my monitor turning off, you know what it is? I bet you this computer needs to be restarted because it's probably been on for way too long. And I bet you that was actually my video card going super wonky. So I'm not gonna restart right now, but I'll sort that out after. So Infected FPS way back was saying, even if you watch Prime's thing he did on LinkedIn stream about learning C# and it basically just moved it the entire time. Sorry, I'm not sure if I get that. Even if you watch Prime's thing he did on that LinkedIn stream about learning C# and it basically just moved it the entire time. Sorry, Infected, might have lost the context. I apologize, but I actually missed Prime's stream on C Sharp. I remember he posted about it and people were tagging me, and then I missed it. So sucks. Mr. Pickles, do you think that C Sharp can compete with or even surpass Python in terms of artificial intelligence? So my take on that is it's a my answer is I don't think that the question is applicable, because I don't think Python has anything to do with artificial intelligence except for the fact that people happen to build tooling in it. So I don't like using Python, so I'm just exposing my bias here. I actually don't have anything actually against it. I'm not like, hey, Python is terrible, but I don't like using Python. In my own experience, I know people will disagree with this. I'm not here to tell you my way is the right way, but in my experience, Python has not felt well suited for developing entire applications, but it's felt like if you wanted to like put some pieces of stuff together or glue things together, it can be very helpful. To me, like it feels very much like a more robust. I'm not even going to try to say it this way because it's just going to make it sound bad. But anyway, it just feels like it's not something that I would want to build a whole platform out of. So I know there's a lot of tooling and stuff for AI and machine learning that uses Python, but there's nothing special about Python that enables it to do that. It's just that the sort of the user base of developers has done that. So I don't know. The question, like, do I think it can compete or surpass? Like, it probably won't ever in terms of like the user base, because it's kind of like, just to give you a parallel example, it's like, .NET, we have Blazor for front end development. Like, do I ever think that Blazor will surpass like React and similar JavaScript frameworks? Like, no, I don't. Why? Like, I think there's just too much momentum with the other ones that people would ever do it. So if you were to ask me, do I think C Sharp could, if we would have gone ahead and at the same time built things in C Sharp to do a lot of the AI stuff, I think that a lot of the time C Sharp can be quite performant. I think that I would have preferred it that way, but there's my bias. I don't know. I understand the question you're trying to ask, but I don't think that it's necessarily something that I can really answer, because I just don't think it really works that way. But short answer is no. Tayman says, my kids are a ridiculous source of motivation. I would have given up a long time ago if it wasn't for thinking about being able to help them go to college and all that. Awesome. Right? Like, finding what motivates you is going to be super important. It's going to be unique for everyone. Infected Epi said mod. Oh, so what, Prime did that C Sharp stream and just mocked it? Come on. C Sharp is awesome. It's good for scripting and data, but not the best for application, in my opinion. Python is my main language, just for reference. Awesome. Yeah. So, and like, for more context too, right? My first internship, I went back there twice. So I spent 8 months in total at the first place that I ever worked. Contract software development company. The CEO there was an absolute Python guru. Like, literally, when I say Python guru, there was one person in the world at the time that had more active posts on the Python forum, like official Python forum. He literally was like a Python guru. So we built in Python, and the embedded stuff was in C. But like, even reflecting, like, it just, to me, it never, like, and everyone's got an opinion. This is mine. It doesn't feel like it's a good thing for building entire applications, but that's just my thoughts. Okay, I think I made it through the comments. I want to go back to the newsletter, but the tricky part is that I'm using a vertical monitor over here and not looking at the camera. Where my newsletter is over here. There's a 48-inch monitor behind the camera, but it's black. I can't see anything. So I need to somehow try and pull it over, and it's going to be like having my eyes closed. So just give me 1 sec, because I'd like to kind of keep the flow of what I did in the newsletter going. So awful. Okay. I was talking about practicing communication. Let me just kind of wrap that up, because I think that when it comes to communication, one thing that's really cool about learning in public is that we, and I'm not I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be an expert on like how our brain works when we're learning things, but I think from what I understand is that when we interpret things different ways, so like for example, you've probably heard people saying like writing notes. So you're hearing something and then writing it down, like actually can help reinforce learning. I think that there's an interesting thing that happens when we're doing learning in public, which is you're trying to absorb information about the thing that you're learning, whether that's reading articles, watching videos, actually building some sample applications. And now, when it comes to learning in public, there's a couple things that happen. And depending on how you want to go do this, so for some people, it might be writing blog articles. By the way, I recommend if you want to do this, write blog articles. I think it's a cool way to do it. There's so many like micro blogging websites. You don't have to be a total nerd and write your own blogging engine. You don't have to use WordPress if you don't want to deal with all the WordPress drama that's going on. There's Hashnode, dev.to, there's Medium, like there's a lot. You could write LinkedIn articles. I think X has articles. Maybe that's a premium only thing because Elon, I don't know, but there's a bunch of options. And my point here is like, find something that works for you. Maybe you want to make videos, but when you're basically putting your thoughts together, say, let's assume you're writing blog articles. You're like, okay, I'm going to write this blog article and talk about the things that I'm learning. The other thing that happens is not only do you have to like organize your thoughts to go put them down, but you're going to be writing to an audience, right? And that audience might not actually be real people yet because perhaps no one's read your content to this point, which is fine. No problem with that. But you're writing to someone, right? And when I say you're writing to someone, I mean, as the words are coming out on paper, or if you're talking to a video camera, you're trying to find ways to explain concepts to people. And that means interpreting your understanding and putting that into a way that they can understand. If you watch I'm literally trying to do this right now, take some thoughts I have and explain them in a way that I'm hoping will make sense to you. And there's a huge carryover here into software engineering. Again, I think going back to soft skills and communication that I think people miss. And that is that when you're working as a software engineer, there's going to be so many instances in your career where you're taking very technical things. Like you're literally like, I was just at my desk in Visual Studio looking at these classes. I was going down this call stack and I know that we have this covered in unit tests and this other part over here that's really got to get refactored. And when you want to go talk about this stuff, what's not going to happen likely what's not going to happen is that you turn to someone and you start regurgitating specific line numbers of code and what they're doing, unless that person is also a developer that's very well versed in that area of code. So that's possible. But odds are a lot of the conversations you have are with people that the information you need to give them, they're not going to understand it at the same level of technical detail that you do. And it doesn't mean that they're dumb or they're not intelligent or whatever. It just means that they have a different set of knowledge and skills and experiences. So, for example, I will use myself as an example here. So, yes, I've been coding for over 20 years. And yes, before Microsoft, I was what we called a technical manager. So I was also an individual contributor and a manager at the same time for 8 years. I write a lot of code. I love to write code. But the teams that I have at Microsoft, I don't program in their code base. I don't write code at Microsoft. So there's going to be certain things that when they're talking to me about the work they're doing, they're not saying, hey, Nick, we have this class and partway down on line 37, we have this method that does whatever. Like, if they wanted to walk me through that and show me it in the code base, I could go along for the ride and try to learn and understand. My point is that when they want to communicate stuff to me, it's not, I don't want to say like they're dumbing it down, but they're finding ways to explain the things that they're working on so that I don't have to know that stuff, because that's not really the point. So in our careers, we're always finding ways to translate information. I'll give you another quick example. In software engineering, it's pretty common that there's some type of, you're working through stuff, we need to give a status update because someone cares about the deadline. So this can look very different, even though it's the same sort of topic in a stand-up meeting, right? Maybe your stand-up meeting, you bring up a detail, right, that's related to the code base, and you're like, hey, I got stuck working in this class. Anyone on the team can help get me unblocked, right? But you're bringing up a technical detail that some other engineer on the team can get. Now you might go talk to the product owner, the project manager, whoever. Maybe it's your own engineering manager, and you're talking to them about the status of this, and you're not like, they're probably not going to care what class you're stuck on. You might say, hey, there is this part of the application that has to process the reporting. I'm stuck on this part, and I'm just trying to find a subject matter expert for it. Okay, so we've taken the same concept and we've explained it a different way. And now this update has to get sent out to a leadership team because it's holding back the product delivery, which sucks, oh no. But what are we telling them? It's probably a different level of that same information in a way that they can understand and maybe that they care about. Because maybe they don't care about the specific component, right? They might not, the reporting part, they might not care about. They might want to hear like, okay, well, if you're stuck, when's the next date that we're expecting? And what's your strategy for getting unblocked? Just to make sure that there's a path forward, right? So we need to find different ways to communicate things. And I honestly think that by doing learning in public, it forces us to practice this. When people talk to me about soft skills, if we're contrasting like, hey, I want to learn how to program. It's like, okay, well, that might seem a lot more straightforward. It's like you could go watching tutorials, you could read articles, you could try building software in that language, right? There's so much you can do to try and build and work on that skill. And then people will say, for soft skills, Nick, they're like, when do I get to practice this? And it's hard, right? Like it's hard because it's not like, sometimes it feels like it's not directly in your control, like just going and watching a tutorial or building something. But this is a perfect example of practicing communication. So that's one example. And then Andrea, I'm sorry if I'm asking so much. No worries. There's no such thing. That's the entire point of these live streams. I read many times senior developers talks about what the tech stack is not more important. The more important part is to understand the logical problem. But all the job opportunities I see are asking for 3 years of experience with X or Y tools. How can we understand that dichotomy? Yeah, having in mind that job opportunities are based on what the developer team recommend. The companies, the senior developers say one thing, but about the job opportunity. Yeah, so, and sorry, just on that express package said below, talking to customers or stakeholders. Yeah, communication is a huge part of software engineering. So to Andrea's question, this is such a good question. I've tried to, and I feel like I don't have the answer that people want to hear when I talk about this. So I'm sorry because I'm probably about to disappoint you. When I talk to people about applying to jobs, interviewing, actually working on the job, I look at these things like, what's that? Raid. What's happening? What's raid? What's raid? What's it do? Thank you, I think. I don't know what it means, but I'm appreciative of it. So Andrea's question is around we are raid. Thank you. Is this a Twitch thing? I'm new here. So the idea about going from people are raiding my Twitch and like my monitor's not working. This is like the worst day. But thank you for being here. Yes, Twitch, become a piece. Okay, well, let me pause for 1 second. Folks that are raiding me on Twitch, thank you so much for doing that. That's super cool. I wanted to apologize because I think it's my video card ended up nuking itself while streaming here. So I am literally like trying to stream off of my vertical monitor here. It's just it's a cluster, if you will. So thank you for joining. I appreciate it. We're going through the chat. There's a question from Andrea, and I'm just going to repeat it in case people didn't see. But Andrea was saying that it feels kind of confusing that when we see job applications that are saying, like, you need X amount of experience with this programming language and this tech stack, and then we hear other people saying like as senior developers, like, hey, it's not really so much the language or the tech stack that's important. It's kind of like the fundamentals, or if you know one thing, you can transfer it. These are both like true things that happen. So yes, I agree with what the senior developers are saying. I think like all of this stuff is transferable. Just a quick example. In my time at Microsoft, and so it's been just under 5 years now, I have had, I think, two people that I have either had hired on right before I joined the team or right after. Two people, as far as I'm aware, that were like sort of fluent in using C sharp. And C sharp is the language that we use. So the point is that like they were able to demonstrate in their interviews that they know how to develop software. They're fluent in other languages. That's fine. They'll learn C sharp. We don't care. It's just not a requirement. Now, where this gets really confusing to Andrea's question is that it's very confusing when we see job applications and stuff like the job description say you need X amount of years of experience with some tech stack. So I think that what happens is that some of this stuff gets very disjoint and like it is kind of unfair. That's why I talk about these things in three phases. One is that we need to stand out in our job applications. Number two is that we need to stand out and nail the interview. And number three is that we literally have to like do the work once we get the job. Jonathan Barron, thank you so much. Let me finish this question, then I'll go right to yours. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I think the big challenge is that when we're looking at the job application part, there's a job description that's been posted. There is a huge discrepancy a lot of the time in what you actually need to do the job successfully and like what people are asking for. And this is why I said I feel like when I go to give this answer, it's like not the answer people want to hear. But like the reality is that employers, whether that's HR, the hiring manager, they're just copying and pasting a job description, whatever it happens to be, is like they're probably indicating what they want because that would be ideal. Like if we work in C# and ASP.NET Core, if you know it already, that would be great. So they're going to put that down. And then they're saying some minimum years of experience. The reality is like I said, that people will learn this stuff if they need to. Like there's an opportunity for people to be taught and to learn things, especially because this stuff is transferable. But here's the sort of like the unfortunate part that I just want to mention is like they get to make the job description. And I think it's shit, pardon my language again. I think it's crappy that like that's the situation we're in, but like they get to make the job description and then they have thousands of applicants apply. So they're kind of sitting there going, we can set the bar to wherever we want. And I'm not saying, please don't misinterpret this as me saying like, and haha, like sucks to be you. It's like, no, I'm acknowledging like this is crappy, but it's sort of the reality of the situation they're in. Like literally, like I know I try to do this a lot so we can all look at different perspectives. Put yourself in their shoes, right? You make a job description and you get 1,000 applicants. What's the easiest way that you can try to filter and statistically hope that you get higher quality applicants? You raise the bar, right? So I'm not saying that this is like, this feels good or this is like fair or that it's guaranteeing to find the best people, but they get to raise the bar to whatever they want. This is why people will say, like, it's not fair that they're not hiring boot camp grads at some places because it says you need like a degree. But like, I don't have a degree and I think that I could do that job. And it's like, you're probably right. I'm not going to disagree with you. That might very well be the case. But guess what? They're probably thinking statistically people that went to and I'm not sure if there's actually data that suggests this or not, but maybe they're saying statistically people that went to college or university have more skill and more education in the area. So maybe statistically, if we raise the bar to that level, we know we're going to get like hammered with applications. We just help filter out some of what they're considering noise. And I will say it again, I'm not saying that's right. or guaranteeing they get better results. But I think that's what's happening. So I think hopefully that might explain some of the dichotomy. It's because people are setting the bar higher than it needs to be, and they're being specific with the requirements. The reality is that job description could read like, here is the technology you will be working with. If you have experience in these things that are related, they would be very transferable. And then, of course, they're going to layer, like, this is where you build that as a base, and then you start to say, okay, but it's a mid-level engineering role, so probably needs some years of experience. And then they just keep upping the bar. But I hope that helps explain it. I realize, like I said, that's probably not what you were hoping to hear, but hope that helps. If Andrea, if you have any more follow-up questions on that, like, I know you were saying sorry for all the questions, just ask them. That's the whole point of this. If the stream ends, you have more questions, I know you're watching from Twitter, feel free, send me a message on Twitter. I'll keep responding. I may make a code commute video on it. By the way, good shameless opportunity to plug code commute because people raided. I guess that's what's happening now, right? So if people are still here from the raid, or you didn't hear me shout this out earlier, my primary YouTube channel is called DevLeader. DevLeader is where I put edited videos, like tutorials and videos that are a little bit more streamlined than this, because I do have them edited to go over software engineering topics. But Code Commute is one that I go over basically stream of consciousness stuff when I'm driving to and from work and to and from CrossFit. I just kind of, today there was a rant, there was 2 things from Reddit or 3 things from Reddit. And then otherwise I'm answering questions. So for example, Andrea, if you wanted me to follow up, I could make a whole video entry on Code Commute. And for people that are kind of hearing about it for the first time, if you would like a dedicated video, kind of like what I'm doing right now, but talking about software engineering topics, send them in. You can comment on a Code Commute video or message me on social media. I'll add it to the list. I'm happy to try and go over it and explain it. Okay. Let's go back up. Jonathan Barron, thank you again. I really do appreciate it. Do you have any do's and don'ts for building in public via LinkedIn posts as we try to build an MVP? And then saying we'll learn backend, cloud, etc. from zero. Awesome. So I don't have like a published like list on this, but I can talk through some of this. Actually, I do have. I'm lying. I have a little bit of that. So if I go back. There's a Code Commute video on this, right? So Code Commute, one sec. I can't remember what day I posted it. Anyway, if I don't see it like as soon as I open my channel, and I don't know if I see it very obviously. Yeah, there it is. So it's called increase your luck surface area, learn in public and networking. So I'm just going to copy and paste that into the chat. Jonathan, you are on YouTube, so you should get this link. And the fact that you're on YouTube, you can look at the Code Commute channel. And like I said, it's called Increase Your Luck Surface Area, Learn in Public and Networking. That is a video that I actually filmed at this desk. Even though it's a Code Commute video, sometimes I don't get driving in for the day and still make an entry. And that one I talk about it a little bit, but just high level. One of the really big don'ts that I see a lot of people mess up is let's back up and talk about some of the goals of learning in public, right? Goals are you get to learn. That's the goal. And I think what happens is that people go, hey, there's this social media aspect, right? And like and I have a lot of tangents on this, so I apologize, but there's this social media aspect. Let me like try to learn in public, but then I'm getting like likes and I'm getting comments, and then you're going, but I want more likes and I want more comments. So let me like do these social media things, and now I'm getting more likes and more comments. And all of a sudden you're focused on likes and comments and not like I'm actually learning. And one of the things that I see happening with this, it's a big mistake in my opinion, is that people go down this path and they get distracted by it. So I mentioned earlier, for some people, it can be a really big motivator for accountability, but I also think that some people can be distracted. And what ends up happening is that one way to come across on social media to, you can post really polarizing things. You're going to get a lot of engagement that way. But the other way is that as you're trying to post more things, you come across as an authority on the topic. So just to give you an example, I assume that most people that, aside from raiding into here, thank you again, by the way, and just being like, we don't know this dude, but like, whatever, we showed up. I think that most people come to my content because they, or like my live streams, because they see the content I'm posting. And I am an engineering manager. I've been doing this for 12 and a half years. I've worked at startups. I work at Microsoft now. I have a bunch of things that I share online. And what I'm doing is trying to illustrate to you that I don't like the word authority. It sounds too weird, I guess, but like I'm someone with experience in the space. Like I have some authority in this space because I've been doing it. I'm not just a random person that wants to make some stuff up and talk about it. Just like it's literally what I've been doing for like a big chunk of my life. So I am able to talk about things from a position of experience, and I've done this. And I think one really big mistake that I see people learning in public do is they go, well, that's what all the other big people do, so I'm going to talk like that. But what happens is like you're actually not an authority on the topic. And then you start presenting yourself that way. And something happens very quickly. And that's that the people that could have been giving you feedback about what you were learning, either trying to course correct you or encouraging you, what starts to happen is they go, I can see right through your bullshit. Like, not only is that wrong, but like now you're trying to educate people and tell people about this. You'll see people ripping on people for LinkedIn all the time. There's people that will post diagrams about, and there was some like system design stuff I saw posted a few months back. Kind of like, it didn't quite go viral, but there was enough like activity on it that was like, you're literally posting this to a big audience and it's wrong. Like the whole thing was just like not right. And the reality is like that person probably knows what they're talking about, but maybe not on that subject. And I see this happen a lot with people that start off in this space. And my recommendation, so kind of that's what to not do. My recommendation is actually be transparent about it, right? So to be able to say, hey, whether you're writing to your blog and you're like, here's what I learned, I spent time building this thing or learning about this topic, and here are the takeaways that I got from reading these resources, watching these videos, having these side chats, building these things, and like just presenting it in a way that's like, here's what I believe I understand from this. Because then what happens, you're always going to have people on the internet that are assholes. It happens. Unfortunately, just how things work. But you're also going to have people that see that and go, hey, like, that is right. Like, good job. Like, you did learn that. That's spot on. You'll have other people that will say, hey, by the way, that's not quite it. Like, I think what happened is you misunderstood this part. And then you start getting the feedback. And that's sort of the other part on the article that I didn't get to, which is like, this is a really good opportunity for you to practice getting feedback. But the whole thing, in my opinion, falls apart when you start to position yourself as an authority and you're not. And I think people do it because they're chasing the wrong sort of like vanity metrics. And I did promise I was going to come back and say this, but like when I started Dev Leader, I actually started Dev Leader in 2013. I took a 10-year break because I gave up. And I was trying to learn in public because I said, hey, if I want to be a better engineering manager, because I had a hybrid like IC manager role, I said, I'm not doing, in my opinion, I'm not doing a good job as a manager. So I'm going to start learning in public. I started my blog, Dev Leader, and then I was writing articles, trying to be like, here's some of my experience and things I'm learning about. And then I felt like no one was like reading. I felt like no one's paying attention. And I'm like, well, why am I doing this? But like that wasn't, it was the wrong motivation, right? I was doing it because I was trying to learn and get better. And then I lost sight. So now when I create content, most of it is not learning in public. Most of it is to try and help others. But there's still some things where I'm learning in public. And I was doing a little bit more of this. I had a live stream I was trying to do Tuesday mornings, but it doesn't really line up now. And I was coding live. And I would purposefully pick things where I'm like, I don't know this. Made it really awkward and embarrassing to go code stuff live, but it was my opportunity to go learn in public. Like, hi, I'm Nick. I am a principal level engineering manager at Microsoft. I've been programming for a while. Let's go watch Nick mess a bunch of stuff up and fumble around, right? And it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. I just right now I don't have the capacity to keep doing it, so had to cut that out. But anyway, Jonathan, I hope that helps. That's my number one recommendation: is do not try to come across like an authority figure. Seek feedback, be open to feedback, right? I think it's easy to get into positions where we want to defend things into oblivion. Try to be open to it. If people are trolling you, you can all the power in the world to just ignore it. It's fine. Literally, you can block people and never have to worry about them again. If over time you find that you're enjoying it and you're learning a bunch, and maybe you become, someone who can talk about a topic with more authority, you could go transition into like content creation and stuff. I think for many people, like, content creation is not the actual end goal for them. But you may find that it's something that you want to keep like almost like a journal of learning. So that could be really cool. So anyway, Jonathan, I hope that helps. But that's my thoughts on that. So thanks again. I appreciate the tip. Productive time. Dang, if he's in Redmond, he might have worked with my uncle at one point, not me knowing how big the office there is. The office in Redmond is outrageous. It's like 10 minutes to drive across, like the campus. It's ridiculous. It's so crazy. So context, I am from Canada originally. When I was hired onto Microsoft, I worked remotely from Canada in Ontario. And so I worked there for a few months. This was at the beginning of the lockdown. And what happened, yeah, and the campus is so beautiful. They shipped me across because to be hired on, it was for a US position, but because of the lockdown and stuff, they're like, we're gonna wait because like we get that it's kind of weird. So they shipped me down and they put me into what do you call it, like corporate housing, and it's literally like if I took one step across the street, I would be on campus. So I lived at one end of campus, and the office building that technically my team was in, even though everyone worked remote, was like a 10-minute drive. And it's all campus in between. It's crazy. It's really cool. It's super green, super beautiful. Like I said, I am from Canada, but what I realized when I came out here was a lot of like, I'm used to seeing like, lots of trees and stuff because it's Canada, yay. It's similar, but the trees are like twice as tall here. It's nuts. We just get a lot more snow where I'm from. So there's still a little bit of snow here. Not that often. Rains way too much. Rains every single day. It's crazy. But there's way less snow, and I hate snow. So unfortunately, I probably don't know your uncle because there's a lot of people that work here, but it's cool. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, and sorry, I'm reading source code ES, your comment. Sorry, I kind of missed that. I heard now that we have to also get the application past AI that filters everything. Some places are using AI for that, for sure. Even before AI, right? Something that I don't actually know all the places that use this. Like if someone said, hey, does Microsoft do this? I would assume yes to some degree, but I don't know, literally. But I would just assume yes based on the volume. People would say, what do they call them? There's like automated systems for resumes, not the AI stuff specifically, but just like looking for keywords and stuff. Automated, like, is ATS, automated tracking systems or something. And like people will say like, hey, like you don't got to put a lot of keywords on resumes. It's distracting. And part of me is like, I don't know, man. If you're applying anywhere and there's a chance that there could be automation looking for keywords, literally put them in, because just by not having them, automatically, like, you could be the best candidate and like the whatever screening system they're using just misses it. And then some people will say, well, it doesn't matter, you shouldn't be working in a place like that. And I'm like, I get it, but like this is part where it sucks, but like sometimes we got to play the game. As much as I hate to say it, it's like I talk about this a lot. I don't like lead code for software engineering interviews. I think it's ridiculous. I think asking lead code style questions to gauge how well a software engineer will perform is like one of the worst things we could do. But people do it all the time. But if people said, hey, Nick, how do I prepare for interviews? I would tell them, like, sorry, you probably should be practicing lead code. Not because I think it's a good way to gauge software engineers, because it's probably how you're going to get tested at some point in your interview process. So there's a bunch of stuff like that like I said, it's like you got to play the game a little bit. And honestly, though, once you're, I said when I was answering Andrea's question earlier, I said there's 3 phases I look at: the application process, so getting noticed; the actual interview process, so you're demonstrating these qualities, so coding, system design, and behavioral interviews. And then once you're in at the job, it has like a lot of the stuff from the previous steps don't really apply. Like you're not going to be doing lead code at work, so that was probably not really relevant. You're not trying to write emails and stuffing in keywords. Like there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't really translate well from those first 2 steps into the actual job stuff. But I like walking through people through those 3 stages so that they can think about where to focus for themselves. Productive time, I was only kidding, but yeah, he's worked there for over 20 years. Pretty cool to see all his work. That's awesome. Is he at Microsoft, I'm assuming, because you were mentioning Redmond? There's, I guess, other companies in Redmond, but Microsoft is the big one, so just guessing. I'm doing a quick time check here, folks. It's after 8. I was only planning to go for about an hour. This is usually the time where I try to do like shameless plugs. Yeah, he does work at Microsoft. Cool. Oh, that's great. Let me kind of, I'm gonna sign off here, but let me kind of show you what I got going on the other platforms and all of that fun stuff. So this is going to be such a mess to try and, I don't even know if I can do this. I can't. Let's see. Can I? Is there a way? I don't think I can. I want to share my screen, but usually how I do this is that I dock my window to part of this 48-inch monitor and it's completely dark. Can I turn it back on? Give me 1 sec. By the way, look how ridiculous this is. Like, this is the remote for the monitor. Like, why is this remote so insane? Like, what is this? Why? It's like the same size as this microphone. Crazy. Will it turn on? Let's see, because maybe I can go back and wrap up the stream. No, there's no signal going to it, so it's probably my video card. So that sucks. Okay, but I will just kind of like put some stuff in the chat. I am on OBS. I can select the area, but it's awkward because I don't know if I don't have enough like screen real estate to do this. Maybe, okay, you know what? Let's try it. Let's give it a whirl. Can I do this? If I go over here. Ah, okay. So, oh man, this is nuts. Is this gonna work? No, that's everything. Will this work? Kind of. Okay. We did it. Okay. Woo! So if you were curious, this is where I was reading from. So this is my newsletter, Dev Leader Weekly. Like I said, if you're like, Nick, newsletters suck, I don't want more email, that's totally cool. Don't subscribe. But if you're curious and you like this live stream kind of format, weekly.devleader.ca is where I would recommend you go. I put out the content on Saturday. Again, you're like, I don't want it in my email. Cool. If you want to join the live stream and you want to see the topic, you got from Saturday to Monday night, and you can check out what I'm going to be talking about and decide if you want to join. Would love to see you here again. I have a couple YouTube channels. Code Commute is the one where I am talking in the car. If I hover over some of these, you can see me driving around. These are in the morning from CrossFit. There's me sitting in the same spot. I'm literally wearing that shirt right now. That's awkward. I swear I have other shirts. Andrew says if that remote falls down, the floor will break. This remote could probably compete with a Nokia phone, to be honest. But yeah, so this is Code Commute. It's all vlog style. And so the format, obviously I was engaging with the chat here on this live stream, but the format of Code Commute, very much the same idea, just without the chat because it's not live. That would be completely reckless. But Dev Leader is my main YouTube channel. So this is where you can see I'm streaming there right now. But the content you'll see on here is a lot more either like C# and .NET tutorials. I got my stupid face on all the thumbnails and stuff. But there's also a podcast where I interview other software engineers and kind of talk about their career journeys. There's more polished videos on topics like this. So, for example, I've done some career-focused ones. I've done ones on like transitioning to an engineering manager role. Maybe that's an interest for you. But those ones are edited. They're not me like messing up and talking over here at this screen because my monitor broke. So something you can check out. And then finally, the thing I will shout out here as well. Actually, two more things. One is that if you're interested in courses, yes, surprise, it's a creator online who's going to push courses to you. But in all seriousness, I have courses on Dome Train if you're interested. If you want to learn C# and .NET development, I have the Getting Started and Deep Dive ones, which is for people that aren't C# and .NET developers, this was such a cool, I don't know, like honor to have, because Nick Chaps, this is the one that runs Dome Train. If you are a C# or .NET developer, you probably know Nick Chaps is from YouTube. He's one of the biggest C# like content creators in the world. And when I started off my YouTube channel, he actually reached out to me and asked me to put courses together. And when these ones came up, he basically allowed me to create the courses on Dome Train that teach people from scratch how to use C#. So that feels cool. It makes me happy on the inside. If you're not a C# developer because you made the wrong choice, but if you aren't interested in C# and .NET, I have some other courses that I've done with a friend of mine, Ryan Murphy, also an engineering manager. He's at Yelp. So we have soft skills for software engineers, kind of like I was talking a little bit about today. We have a promotion one, behavioral interviews, and we have, it's because we're working on it right now. We have another course that we're doing right now. So lots of options there. And finally, I will mention the sort of the product that I am working on is something called Brand Ghost. So if you notice, if you follow me on social media, so for example, Andrea joined from Twitter, you won't see it on Twitch because I don't make like posts on Twitch, but people on YouTube a little bit, people from LinkedIn or Twitter in particular will know, like I post a ton of content on social media. I tell the story that I took a week vacation to Hawaii in October, and I had my product Brand Ghost made 150 social media posts for me while I was in Hawaii with my wife. And so I built Brand Ghost to help create or to help support my content creation. And the reason I wanted to kind of shout it out here is because if you're interested in doing some type of build in public stuff, if you don't want to think about like how to post and like what platforms and stuff like that, it's totally free if you just want to post things on social media. Okay, so if you're like, hey, I want to post stuff on LinkedIn and Twitter, or I want to post on Twitter and Blue Sky, whatever, you can schedule posts, it'll cross post, that's all free. The paid for features are for more advanced content creators. So if you're like, hey, I'm not there, don't worry. You can try it out for free. You can use it to cross post. I mean, free, like free forever, air quotes on forever, because maybe we have to change our business model at some point, but we want to make sure that we can get new creators on board to be able to have a low barrier to being able to post online. And then from there, if you want to pursue content creation, we have more things that you might be willing to pay for because you enjoy using the product. So that's the strategy. It's built in C# and ASP.NET Core in the back end. And then, because some bad decisions were made, I'm just kidding, no, but the front end is in Next.js, TypeScript. So yes, we did pick some other things that weren't C#, but I mean, you can't win them all, right? But anyway, that's what I got going on. So I wanted to say thanks so much for joining me. I do this live stream every Monday at 7 p.m. And if you don't want to wait until next Monday at 7 p.m., join me on Code Commute. Brand Ghost is mine. Yes, Brand Ghost is a product that I built. I actively use it for all of my social media. So just for for context, if you're like, how can I trust that Brand Ghost is going to do the job that I want? Like, I literally use it. If Brand Ghost wasn't working, I would not be able, I would probably stop creating content because I would just feel overwhelmed at this point. Maybe try to keep up with YouTube, but I use it for everything. So if you try it and you're like, hey, there's a bug, or hey, I want this to be better, literally, this is the thing that I build outside of work because I need it for content creation. So would be happy to take feedback. And like I said, it's literally free if you just want to use it for cross posting. So check it out. But thank you so much for being here. Hope to see you folks on Code Commute through the week. Keeps me going. And